So Amanda, why should students get involved in grant writing?
There are several reasons why students should get involved in grant writing. One is that most students in sport and exercise psychology, whether at the master's level or doctoral level, will have to complete a thesis or a dissertation, right? And any type of research project typically takes funds in order to successfully complete. And oftentimes that comes at the student's expense, or if students are being funded, their schooling is being funded by their parents, it may come at their parents' expense. And so this is a way to get money, competitive seed grant money, to then fund their research ideas. Second, especially in applying for ASP grants, whether it's the research grant or the community outreach grant, what it does is give them some early experience as a student under the supervision of their chair, the director of their program, in terms of gaining grant writing skills. It can also help them cultivate and refine their thesis and dissertation ideas through the grant writing process. So if they're thinking ahead of time in terms of their proposal, or maybe they now have their thesis or dissertation proposal has been approved, they can move forward, now they're looking for funds. In having to write a grant application and sell someone else on your ideas, right, to give you money to fund this project, it helps them to think through the whole process at a deeper level, because they have to do checks and balances and different assurances when you're spending someone else's money versus spending your own money.
So Candace, can you talk a little bit about useful resources for grant writing?
Absolutely. First and foremost, your mentor. Starting with your mentors. Writing grants is pretty tricky, and having somebody to guide you through that process is incredibly helpful. Also, attending different workshops, such as the ones that we have at ASP, are also helpful. It teaches you not only how to navigate, just as your mentor should help, but give you small details and pieces of advice. Generally, people who run the workshops are people who are on different committees for grant writing, so they can tell you what they're looking for specifically, and I've always found those to be very beneficial. Also, I know at my university we have classes that are tailored towards that, but also there should be workshops that are available. And also different writing groups at your university could be helpful. I also found that reaching out to not only to your mentor, but experts that are in different fields that maybe be related to your work. So my research, for example, is interdisciplinary, so I needed to reach out to people who were in physiology, health psychology, statistics at the time, because I didn't have the knowledge when I was first starting out, so that's really helpful also.
So as a previous grant reviewer, what are some of the common mistakes students make when writing research grants?
The big things, I think, are writing specific aims that are clear and concise. And that's not, to some extent, I think that's a little bit to be expected because it's early in their grant writing career. It's also usually fairly early in their just writing skill development. And so in acknowledging that, one of the best things that a student can do is then identify how they're going to overcome that challenge. And that's allowing themselves enough time in the writing process to get feedback from their chair, to get feedback from their peers, and understand that writing is an iterative, ongoing process. And the more that they write and then rewrite and then write and rewrite again, it gets better and better each time. And so I think one of the lessons that students can learn, or an expectation to grasp up front, is when it comes to grant writing, is to understand that writing is a process, and cultivating our ideas is a process and takes time as well. So when we're writing grant applications and we're trying to sell someone else on our idea, because essentially what we're doing is coming to an agency, whether it's ASP or someone else, and saying, hey, I have this big idea, don't you want to give me money for it? you really have to do a good job at packaging your idea, and that's what a grant application is.
So what advice would you give to students that have that initial idea and need to develop it into a grant?
Honestly, I reached out after reading an article that kind of sparked an interest, not only discussing it with my colleagues and people in my lab group and my mentor, but to the person who actually wrote the article. I just reached out and said, I'm really interested in this. After I really got into the literature and tried to understand what it is that's been done, maybe kind of what should be done. And when you're starting out as a young professional, you won't know everything in the field. There's so much literature out there. But you can definitely prepare yourself before speaking to professionals, and they can give you an idea. I also think that not only really getting to know your literature, but just getting a variety from different resources. So, because you never really know where those ideas are going to come from